Greetings to my friends and followers. This is Amir Katz sending lots of love from Binyamina, my home here in Eretz Israel, where my people are reeling, but we are getting organized. I am so proud to see a nation that has come together, not waiting for the government that led us into this folly, but rather civic responsibility, organization, initiative, drive, entrepreneurship, fundraising. Am echad, lev echad, one people, one heart. I have seen acts of kindness and hospitality and humanity and decency like no other. The blood drives are full. People are waiting in line for hours to be able to donate their blood, their time, their money, in order that the scourge of the world, Hamas, no longer exists. The world came together when it was time to wipe ISIS off the map. We would not let Syria and Iraq turn into full-blown terrorist states and psychopathic Islamic caliphate entities claiming to speak for Islam in order that the civilized world would be able to persevere. The coalition that came together to wipe away ISIS did the right thing, and there was little doubt in the minds of most decent people that this was the right thing to do. We're finding out now that Hamas was able to operate in open, plain sight a terrorist city, a terrorist country, a terrorist Gaza Strip that has been, unfortunately for the people living there, overrun and dominated by a fundamentalist extremist organization. Have no doubt, we made the mistake thinking that we had who to talk with, that they would be satisfied with certain amounts of money and certain amounts of electricity and certain amounts of control in order to be left alone, and therefore would know. These are calculations that people from decent Western civilized societies and Eastern civilized societies make. Money, time, resources, power are all viable concepts that we engage with on the international political arena. But my enemies do not have the same values as we do. They are very human, and it would be a shame to dehumanize them. But they are a type of human being that functions with a moral compass that has to deal more with honor and pride and shaheed and shame. What the Western world does not understand is that the shame that Hamas superimposes onto itself and perpetuates in its perpetual victimhood is one in which losing to Jews is not a pill they are willing to swallow. The world forgets very quickly how easy it is to destroy us and burn us and gas us. The Christian world and the Western world forgets very quickly that you also, once upon a time, not so long ago, dehumanized Jews and threw us in ghettos and threw us in gas chambers and threw us in pits to be burned. It's a painful reminder what happened last Saturday of what the world thinks of Jews. And while the European and American and the Christian and the Western elites say they've gotten past these trends and believe they no longer look down on Jews this way, anti-Semitism is ripe in the Muslim world, in the Arab world. They sell books of Mein Kampf openly on the streets. They propagate propaganda that is disgusting, and my people are dogs in the eyes of the Muslim Arabs who lost wars to us, not once, twice, but many times. And it's hard for you in the West to understand that fundamentalism and extremism that is rampant across Gaza, not just in the Hamas entity, but also with the civic population that voted them in the first place. You must understand that the Arab Muslims have a bit of a shaheed, jihadi, fanatical radicalism about them. Maybe only this percentage or that percentage, but it's a big enough percentage to maintain dominance over the Gaza Strip for the last 15 years. It's enough to propagate and to play with their proxies in Iran, promoting a revolution against the West and the Satan that is America and Israel. You guys don't want to acknowledge this, but you're also at war. It happened in San Bernardino, California. It happened across Paris. It's happened with the bombing in Madrid. You need to acknowledge that there is little distinction to be made between the fundamentalists in Gaza and the fundamentalists in northern Iraq and Syria and in Tehran and Tabriz. There is an extremism and a hatred and an evil fuel of fire that burns in the hearts of these jihadis, and they live on my front door. They are not representative of the national Palestinian aspirations. They are a deterrence to that outcome. If you weep for Palestine and care for Palestine, you also acknowledge that Palestinians deserve better leadership. And there is a bit of culpability when they vote in Hamas leadership. They didn't vote for the other dirtballs because the other guys were corrupt and scoundrels. And you know what? Unfortunately for them, they have been lacking decent leadership for a very long time. I want you to go back and remember that the leader of the Palestinian people once upon a time was Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was in Berlin with the Nazis broadcasting death to the Jews all back in the 40s. And Yasser Arafat in the 90s, who hypocritically stole billions in foreign aid and left his people with no deal because he was too much of a coward to acknowledge that maybe Jews have a right to live in the Jewish homeland of Judea, Israel, our homeland. The Arabs chose war because they did not have the courage to share, and they lost. They lost by their own choices, they lost by their own folly, they lost by their own cowardice, and they pretend to be united in their perseverance in their endless war against the Jews, but they are as divided and spiteful towards one another as ever. One thing that unites the Jewish people, and we are united, is seeing our daughters and our sons murdered and cut down. It tends to stir us up, not for anger and enemy and vengeance and horror, but for good. The horror of seeing our children murdered invokes organization and care and support and love. And the Arabs, with their enmity and their endless revolution, have galvanized the Jewish people towards a mission of making the world a better place. We came out of the Holocaust and built a nation. We came out of the Inquisition and helped the Turks build their empire. The Jewish people have been a catalyst for progress and knowledge and wisdom and fortitude and education and strength that sadly has gone overlooked over the centuries. And the Arabs are in a pitiful, tragic state currently in the modern world. And they want to blame someone else. The eternal Jew, the sinister Jew, the manipulative Jew. Careful what you cheer for when you say free Palestine. Because while Palestine certainly deserves to be free, the monsters that rule in the West Bank and in Gaza are dangerous, not just to Israel, but to decent people, to humanity, to the own Palestinian residents of those various territories, and to themselves. This jihadi war must be eliminated, whether it be in Tehran or whether it be in Gaza City. And my bombs will not solve any problems. And our soldiers will certainly be able to confront and attack these cowards because they hide in tunnels and they hide in bomb shelters while the civilian population gets bombed. Remember the cowards in Gaza, and don't blame Israel when the collateral damage gets cruel and inhumane, and it's going to be just that. A war against Gaza is going to be horrible for the people of Gaza, and I shake my head in horror at what they must endure. But we didn't choose this war. We tried the humane approach. And when we cut off gas and water and supplies to Gaza, it means that we were trying to give them those things in the first place to try and allow the humanity to flourish there. Israel gives electricity to Gaza. And so when we cut it off, we're the bad guys? You need to be able to pick apart some of the realities of what's going on in this part of the world when wars are breaking out and you're scratching your head wondering what Instagram has to say or what Gigi Hadid has to say about these things. Look deeper, clamor for truth, seek justice, and pray with the Jewish people, because I guarantee you we're on the right side of this, however horrible our actions may have to be. Baby killers are the bad guys. We're bombing bad guys. We are taking out children, unfortunately, in the process, and that is a travesty. But if it means that we wipe Hamas out of Gaza, the people of Palestine will be better for it, and so will humanity.